Beastwatch News, watching the rising beast of Revelation. Thank you for joining me for today's Beastwatch News update. News from the Internet's most comprehensive Bible prophecy news website, BeastWatchNews.com. I'm Kimberly Rogers Brown. Well, folks, America's election ordeal is not over. In fact, this election is just the start of ordeals for America and the West. I'll show you more about what the globalists are saying about future conditions on the earth, but I first want to show you that America's election is not America's election, and that America has been taken over by the globalists. America is no longer in the process of being taken over. She has been taken over. What Americans are going through and leading the world into now is the transition phase between what was and what the globalists intend for the world to be. Thus, this election is a global election. America's election began being a global concern in 2016. This was not the case in 2008. There were global reactions to the 2012 election that the New World Order wanted you to know about. America's transition that had started in 2008 was now openly spoken in 2012 around the world. By 2016, the first inkling that America's vote was a global vote was hinted at. 2020's pivotal vote now makes the American people's decision a global decision. This exposes the American people, not the U.S. government, but the people, to direct backlash by foreign nations who do not like your choice. The other nations have their own reasons for wanting Donald Trump or Joe Biden to win this election. Iran wants Biden because they want to reverse Trump's withdrawal from the Iran deal. China wants Biden because he has been their trade ally for 4 decades. His win could undo Trump's trade war. Russia prefers Trump over Biden because Biden comes out of the Obama regime and Russia was not keen on Obama. Israel and Israel's new allies in the Abraham Accords want Trump in office to uphold all those promised arms sales. The countries waiting in line to sign onto the Abraham Accords would rather deal with Trump, not Biden, because the arms deals may not be as favorable. In fact, Biden may seek to reverse some or all of those sales to the UAE. America, your choice exposes you to danger, no matter which candidate wins. The nations won't let the people off the hook in this election. You are making a decision that will directly affect people you don't even know exist. Iran will blame the American people if Trump wins. They won't simply say, "That's the way it works," and go on dealing with the situation they put themselves into. No, they will blame the American people this time. They will say, "You made the choice, now live with it because we intend to punish you." China also is likely to view the American people as enemies of China. They won't do what has been done in the past and merely say their enemy is America's leader if Trump wins and, we'll just wait for another 4 years and see if we can get our guy in. No, they will blame you. This could impact Iran's and China's future decisions on attacking the United States. They will say the American people let them down, so Americans deserve to die. War could expand from the South China Sea to the shores of America via missiles launched from ships and submarines in the international waters of the Pacific. Russia will blame Americans if Biden wins. The Obama-era Cold War with Russia could return and escalate to include attacks on Europe from its shared eastern border and the Arctic Circle, and on the U.S. from the Atlantic Ocean and the Arctic Circle. Things have changed. The world seems to think it is out of time and is now impatient to try making a world-shaking change by destroying America. The globalists are right. They are out of time. Yeshua Yahweh Elohim is coming, and the tribulation period's chaos is his idea of how to express the world being out of time. Now let's look at America's choice. America's choice that is now changing the world was between two communist systems that were spawned out of Marxism in the mid-1800s, and that became a full-blown revolution in 1917. These two different versions of communism have morphed and changed over the last century. Today, they are represented in China and Russia. Chinese communism has not spread to the West, but Russian communism has. Russian communism has spread with the Russian-born Jews who now live mostly in America and Israel. However, America's liberal left is now trying to import and spread Chinese communism into the West. Russia's Marxism has influenced Kabbalist Judaism, as I have talked about before. This Kabbalist communist ideology will be Mystery Babylon's foundation. This communism, which now seems tolerant of religious ideas that disagree with Judaism, will continue to morph, as communism has in both China and Russia, until it becomes a killing regime of those who disagree with it and reject its policies. It will be under this Kabbalist communism that Yahweh's remnant and elect will be dragged into synagogues, as Yeshua said in Matthew 10:17. Communist China's version of communism does not allow the faintest hint of democracy or dissent from the people. That Joe Biden has been in bed with the Chinese for so long is the biggest reason a Biden win could take America down this path as global political changes are happening. This election, more than any other, was a fight between the Chinese and Russian communisms, which America is headed toward. Biden's communism, the so-called socialism of the liberal left, will be more authoritarian and dangerous for dissenters. Trump's lean toward Judaism and Jerusalem will keep American democracy as much as possible, but it too will eventually give way to the horrors of Marxist Mystery Babylon. Folks, Yahweh is leading the world toward its destruction. Americans' vote is deciding which path to destruction will be taken. COVID was the first battleground to wear down the global population. It was China that made the first move with COVID. This is why President Trump has fought so hard against allowing COVID to weaken the American population. Trump is fighting China's communist takeover. But there are people on the left, Biden, Pelosi, Schiff, the squad, who prefer China over Russia, Chinese communism over Russian communism. They believe China is America's ally. This is Biden's stance, even though China unleashed the world's first biological weapon on the earth, whether by accident or deliberately. COVID is only the start of what the globalists have planned. It may be that COVID was a preemptive strike against the rise of Jewish supremacy and Jerusalem under President Trump. Remember that there are now 3 entities vying for supremacy: China, Russia, using Iran as its vassal and proxy fighter in the Middle East, and Jerusalem. It appears that the whole world was shocked when COVID was released, but the Chinese government didn't seem shocked. They knew about its release and withheld the information from the world. It appears to me that the Sinites, ancient Canaanites who want to conquer and keep Abraham's inheritance, China made the first strike of World War III. Let me explain who the Russians and Iranians are. These are a mixture of biblical Israel's, Abraham's heart-circumcised descendants, enemies. These include the ancient Elamites from Shem's line in Genesis 10:22, the Cushites who begat Nimrod in Genesis 10:8, and Esau, Jacob's evil twin brother in Genesis 25 verses 9 to 28. The world is now dealing with COVID, and it seems that at least some of the world's globalists knew in advance that it was coming. I presented the World Economic Forum's agenda last week. Klaus Schwab has boldly proclaimed that certain conditions will exist on the earth by 2030, a prediction he made in 2016, the last U.S. election year. Many men, such as Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates, have been predicting this outbreak for years. Are they working with the Chinese? Or had they, like Anthony Fauci, hired the Chinese to develop this bioweapon for them, only to have the Chinese steal it for their own purposes? This is not clear. Either way, COVID is now doing its intended work, wreaking havoc around the world, and the globalists' plans are in play. The rabbit is out of the hat. The doves have flown the coop. The evil spirit is out of the bottle, and no one can put it back, not even an American election. Thus, the globalists, whether by accident and too early, or deliberately and on time, are using COVID to change the lives of everyone on the planet. The World Economic Forum's basic agenda under the Great Reset includes, but is not limited to, you owning nothing. You'll be renting everything. The U.S. won't be the world's leading superpower any longer because everything will be under totalitarian, technocratic control and there will be no nation-states. The world is headed toward the elimination of all borders. You'll eat much less meat. You won't be allowed to. 1 billion people will be displaced by fake climate change. Countries will have to welcome more refugees. Polluters will have to pay to emit carbon dioxide. Polluters will include farmers trying to grow food crops. And Western values will have been tested to the breaking point. Your culture will be eliminated and replaced with Maoist technocratic slogans. America is being stripped of her power and culture, and her governance is now in the hands of a few globalists who are mostly corporate executives of media and technology companies. They have the money, so they have the power, at least temporarily and long enough to bring down America. Dr. Mercola calls this new world a corporate oligarchy. An oligarchy is a form of power structure in which power rests with a small number of people. Mercola's view is that it is the corporations who are running everything, and all the power is in the hands of the corporations. He may be onto something except for one small detail. Yahweh is in the process of putting the power in Jerusalem. He used Donald Trump to get this process started. The scripture is clear that the corporations will be beholden to Mystery Babylon in Revelation 18. Mercola sees the corporate side of the Mystery Babylon corporation equation. He simply does not see the Jerusalem side of it. The corporations will one day be indebted to Mystery Babylon, Jerusalem. But Mystery Babylon will need something that corporations have, technology. Mystery Babylon and the corporations will have a symbiotic relationship. The corporations will become rich by assisting in the rise of Mystery Babylon. The corporations used technocracy to control the American election process. This was the battleground on which the 2020 U.S. presidential election was fought. Technocracy is defined as the government or control of society or industry by an elite of technical experts. The big issue of this election was energy from the oil and gas industries. The globalists have put out a 2025 prediction. Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, published his globalist predictions in 2016 with an eye toward having his agenda completed by 2030. But another group has put a different date on when the world will be totally in the clutches of the globalists and the people will no longer have any power. That year is 2025. The group setting this date is Cognizant. Their model says that by 2025, the world's population will be plugged into the machine. In a Cognizant futuristic video, 8 panelists are looking back from 2025 to 2020 and discussing the past 5 years. Here is a transcript of the video. It's May 2025 and the Cognizant Center for the Future of Work is looking back at the months and years following the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020, says the interviewer. The world that emerged post-virus looks and feels incredibly different as digital transformation was accelerated and new needs were revealed. Now from here on I will comment on some of their points as I read them. Number 1 is online's big bang. COVID-19 digitized the world at light speed. The retail world was digitized by millennials. Make no doubt about it, in 2025, millennials will rule retail. Representing a quarter of the U.S. population in 2015 and overtaking baby boomers as the largest generation, their numbers are expected to swell to 80 million by 2025 as young immigrants expand their demographic ranks. The characteristics that define millennials include a love of convenience. The easier and more effortless the retail experience, the better. Millennials expect the latest technology to be applied from the time they start researching products through purchase, shipping, and delivery. Convenience will accelerate, powered by the rise of innovative payment methods such as mobile checkout in the fitting room and emerging fulfillment technologies. Think airborne warehouses. And think rise of technocracy. In my comment, technology in the hands of the few, the corporations, in relationship with Mystery Babylon. A preference for visual and experiential retail. Millennials expect not only immersive and interactive customer journeys, but also fun, one-of-a-kind experiences supported by technologies such as augmented reality. Home improvement chain Lowe's has been quick out of the gate on AR, taking the wraps off several tools, including an in-store smartphone app that layers a to-do list over a store map and lets shoppers click on product reviews. Millennials' preference for visuals will play into their willingness to worship the image of the beast that the people will make in Revelation 13:14. No longer does anyone care about the preferences of the baby boomers. Later, I will show that our own U.S. government regards the older generation as a threat to the survival of the planet. Desire for complementary products and services. Based on their expectation for convenience, millennials see services such as banks, dry cleaners, and bistros to be natural extensions of retail. Disdain for traditional sales events and promotions. By 2025, millennials' response to time-constrained deals will have had a major impact on the sales season. For millennials, promotions are digital, communicated one-to-one and in real time via mobile devices in-store and online. Store sales events, as a result, will become highly personal and immediate. As shoppers enter a store, they will receive alerts for price breaks on items they purchase regularly or have browsed online. Retailers will use the same avenue to offer discounts on slow-moving inventory. What this tells me is that the globalists are drooling over the millennials' purchase power. Now, you may be asking how the millennials will have such purchase power. Since the economies are going sideways at the moment, there are two ways that I can think of, and there may be more. First, banks will loosen credit for them. Digital spending. Second, globalists are pushing for millennials to be home worker bees. More on this in a minute. It will be from their employment that they will be enticed to spend more money than they have. And they will be happy to spend it for entertainment in their home prison cells. Enthusiasm for content, see? And lots of it. With attention spans collapsing, it's imperative for retailers to quickly captivate millennials. The key to success will be custom content. Retailers such as Bloomingdale's and Sephora already gather images, videos, and text and share them with followers on Snapchat stories. Number 2, everyone's home is their castle. Houses were retrofitted with dedicated home office spaces, says this video, as working from home became the norm, not the exception. The 8 panelists in Cognizant's video commented on how much people do from home in 2025. Work, play, and socialize without leaving their homes. Every interaction is done through computers and TV screens in 2025. And number 3, business travel lost its cool. Business travel became a last resort. That's right. The globalists want you to get the message that travel is passé in 2025, something for the old world. You won't travel in the new world. That's not going to be cool anymore. Or let me say this another way. First, you will be imprisoned in your home, and you will prefer that, because they said you will prefer that, like a caged animal or a prisoner who grows to love his prison cell. You will be institutionalized in your own home, and not only will you not want to travel, but the globalists won't let you. Yahweh talked about this situation in Isaiah 33:8. The highways lie waste, the wayfaring man ceases. He has broken the covenant, he has despised the cities, he regards no man. He is the Antichrist in the end of days. One of Yahweh's names for the Antichrist is the Assyrian. The covenant referred to here was between the house of Judah and Sennacherib, the Assyrian who took the house of Israel captive. This is how the Antichrist will work. He will make, or strengthen, a treaty with the world and then break it. The rest of Isaiah 33 after verse 12 is about how Zion overcomes the Antichrist in the end of days. Number 4, health screening is widespread. You're now subject to OK-to-go scans on entering buildings governed by the newly formed Health Security Agency. Much discussion in the video is around coming technology. This particular statement should tell you that you will be screened wherever you go. They will say it is for the protection of everyone's health. The truth is that they will be screening for implants that have turned you into a transhuman. Number 5, Gaia and Greta went mainstream. The environmental agenda gathered momentum. Oh, yay! You will love the Green New Deal, will embrace the rantings of the spoiled brat Greta Thunberg, and will agree to the new carbon taxes and the fact that you can't eat meat anymore because of cow farts. Number 6, humans in the machine. Online interactive dinner parties, concerts, and political rallies have become common, and real versions withered. This one should give you the shivers. Humans in the machine. This is where you'll be limited to doing everything online. No more political rallies with your favorite candidate. Your life will be a virtual one, not a real one, because you won't be allowed to leave your home except in those rare instances where it is required, and then you will be scanned by the new OK-to-go program of the new Health Security Agency. This program is why the globalists are pushing 5G. Not only does 5G wreck human immunity, but it will connect people to the web wherever they go. Number 7, the birth of the clean regime. We realized just how dirty, metaphorically and literally, the earth had become. The clean regime will want all useless eaters dead so the earth can be cleaned up. Yeshua Yahweh Elohim also has an earth cleanup strategy. It is called Armageddon, after which the birds will clean up the remains in Revelation 19 verses 18 to 21. Number 8, privacy. Another casualty of the virus. Oh, how unfortunate. The long-term implications of a permanent surveillance infrastructure became apparent for governments as they recognized that personal data is a new source of economic wealth. Your personal life will not be your own. The corporate technocratic government, Mystery Babylon, will own your personal life. You will have no privacy, and they will tell you what you like and what you don't like. Your personal preferences will be programmed into you. Right now, they're telling you that they will cater to your personal preferences. But what they are really about is defining your personal preferences for you. This video and PDF from Cognizant presents these scenarios as future possibilities. The lie is that these are the direction in which they are steering the world. And believe it or not, every one of us is helping them by pushing their agenda. Right now, we feed our information to them every time we go online. A time is coming when the government will have all our health records. They will control our DNA if we accept their mark of the beast, and they will know what we want even before we do. They will even program our wants into us. So while they are busy euthanizing huge swaths of populations around the globe with biological weapons and Jewish warfare against Yahweh's elect, the rest of the world won't even know it is happening. We will be kept busy, at home, and oblivious, if they have their way. Cognizant thinks it can pull this off by 2025. The World Economic Forum thinks it will take until 2030. 5 to 10 years is not that far into the future, and it remains to be seen how Yahweh the Father will fulfill his timeline, which he is keeping a secret even from Yahweh the Son, in Matthew 24:36 and Acts 1 verses 6 and 7. But of that day and hour knows no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. And when they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? And he said to them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father has put in his own power. On Cognizant's page, after the virus, we read, After the coronavirus global pandemic, the world will be quite different. Whether the current lockdown lasts weeks or months, heaven help us, years, yeah, heaven is helping you in ways you don't even know. Very little will remain unchanged by COVID-19. Oh, that's by design, folks. Geopolitics will change. Will European solidarity withstand the pressure for Germans to prioritize Germans, Italians, their fellow countrymen and women, etc.? Will China be ostracized by the global community or further embraced? In other words, will there still be borders between countries? And see, they want China to be embraced. These are leftist communists. National politics will change. Will populism surge, or will deep states reassert themselves at a time when only governments have the scale to deal with existential threats? There will be no need for a deep state once democratic populism is crushed. Socioeconomics will change. The overnight nationalization of economies in an avowedly capitalist countries will supercharge simmering debates about wealth inequality. Will faith in capitalism be weakened or strengthened by the stress test faced by economies around the world? You see, they're asking the question, but this is a push for state capitalism, which is the Chinese government's form of capitalism. Business will change. Will, they ask, global supply chains withstand breakdowns in what has become business as usual over the last generation or two? Will reshoring and localization require a complete about-turn for how multinationals operate? Will Mr. Just-in-Time survive? Work will change. Will everyone work from home virtually? Will robots and AI be more popular or less so? Their bugs seem sort of tame in comparison. Will the gig economy be wiped away or the only port in a global storm? It is a gig economy that will make it possible for workers to be imprisoned in their homes, working from home. A gig economy is defined as a labor market characterized by the prevalence of short-term contracts or freelance work as opposed to permanent jobs. These will be temporary jobs in which the employers won't have to worry about paying for health care premiums. This will force everyone into state-run healthcare systems where they can force you to take the mark of the beast if you want healthcare. Life will change, they say. Will we ever shake hands again? Will we ever again sit next to a total stranger on a 15-hour flight? Will we pull up the drawbridges around our homes? Well, since they're about to outlaw traveling, the answer to the sitting next to a total stranger on a 15-hour flight is no. And yes, our drawbridges will be pulled up because they will make it be that way. These and a whole host of other facets of life and business as we know it will all be changed by the pleomorphic spherical particles with bulbous surface projections that roam among us. Oh, shut up and just say coronaviruses, of which there are more to come per Revelation 9. In this special report, the team from Cognizant's Center for the Future of Work considers what the world will look like in 2023. A time that's far enough away for the implications of the virus to have materially changed things, but not so far away that pure idle speculation reigns supreme. Hidden in this report is the year 2023. Is this the plan or a typo? Socioeconomics will change, business will change, work will change, life will change. The board of directors of Cognizant are all corporate executives. Imagine that! The world owned by corporations and Mystery Babylon, just like the Bible said. Yes, people everywhere are now facing a new world like nothing that has ever been seen before. President Trump frequently says this election has set all kinds of records, from the size of his rally audiences to the number of people who voted. These are the least of the records that will be set. But there's more good news. Two of my friends who do not know each other told me to check out Deagle.com this past week. I figured Yahweh really wanted me to show you this because he sent two people with the exact same information in the same week. Here are 179 countries listed with a forecast for 2025. So you click on the icons to sort the list, and here's the list. And if you're listening to this on the radio, you'll have to go to my website to look at this image of the list. And would you look at that? By 2025, the U.S. population will decrease by 70%. China will be down 2%, India up 5%, Russia down 1%. What, pray tell, is expected to happen to America between now, 2020, and 2025? Could it be war between China and America, wherein China kills 70% of Americans and America is so weakened that only 2% of the Chinese die in that war? Well, I looked into this further to find out if Deagle.com is a hoax or legitimate. According to newsfocus.org, in October of 2015, the Internet yielded another interesting nugget of curiosity from its vast mine of information and endless tunnels of deeply hidden data. This one would cause quite the stir. A website came to light named Deagle.com. It originated in August 31st, 2003, as an international defense-oriented website coalescing extremely sensitive military infrastructure information referenced from other military organizations into one site. The site raised Internet concerns when it published predictions for a U.S. population of just 65 million people in 2025, a decrease of over 245 million people. It has been alleged to have ties with the NSA, NATO, UN, the World Bank, Stratfor, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, as well as the Russian Defense Procurement Agency. One look at their website and you understand how these connections might be possible, because there is a ton of sensitive information detailed on this one site. Since its inception in 2003, the site has expanded into global economic information as well. The excitement came about as discoverers of the site noticed that Deagle's prediction for 2025 U.S. population is just 65 million people. Since the U.S. is estimated to be well over 310 million people right now, that's quite an alarming decrease to be predicting. As alarms started to spread across the Internet, Deagle reportedly tried to say that it had been hacked, and the low U.S. number was the result of that hack. But a careful examination of the website shows a different story that should raise a Spock eyebrow for some. According to their own website, Deagle has been speculating on population since 2008. No predictions previous to 2008 were found. 2008, the start of the Obama era and the deep state. Since that time, Deagle has been consistently predicting an ever-diminishing U.S. population. So for them to suggest that their site was hacked to lower their estimate is extremely disingenuous at the least, and a bald-faced lie at the worst. The interesting thing is not all countries drop in population. Some do while others don't. The U.S. appears to show the worst drop of all. China is one of those countries that continually shows growth, according to Deagle.com. According to the site's predictions, China is set to become the new world economic leader. Perhaps most surprising of all is the revelation of who is behind Deagle, and to find that answer, was the solution. Early researchers were able to uncover that the person behind the website was none other than former government insider Edwin Deagle. Deagle, spelled differently than the website's name, was Undersecretary of the Air Force under President Bill Clinton. Edwin Deagle is also listed as an active member of the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, and perhaps most telling of all is the interesting fact that Deagle is the Director for International Relations for the Rockefeller Foundation, one of the leading eugenic supporters in the world. Just as interesting, it appears that once this information became public in 2015, a concerted effort was made to hide Deagle's name from the Who Is information directory. It is no longer listed as of October 2015. Deagle wrote the foreword to the book World Energy Survey by Ruth Savard, the second edition, 1981, in which he predicted a mass exodus from the U.S. One thing is clear from looking at Deagle.com. Someone with highly placed connections has published a ton of highly sensitive military and economic information onto the website and is making dramatic predictions about world government. For someone to be able to coalesce this kind of information takes incredible effort and vast government and military resources. To forecast a dramatic drop-off in U.S. population is no small feat. It certainly has garnered a great deal of world attention, and there is no way that 245 million people will be logistically able to leave the U.S. for foreign nations in the short span of just 5 years. That many people moving all at once is just impossible. To the author of this article, though, perhaps the most important question might be who the site was originally developed for and how this strategic information is used by those meant to receive it. Given the public alarm over the Georgia Guidestones, which suggest to many a culling of the Earth's population to the designated 500 million engraved on the stones, coupled with the concern over GMO food and government aerial spraying of our skies with toxic chemtrails, and might I add COVID to this list, it is no wonder people are concerned about a predicted drop in population. The website provides some quotes from Deagle's foreword to the book, World Energy Survey. You should go read it. Savard's book laid out what is still concern over the world's and America's fossil fuel usage, and Deagle agreed and lauded Savard for her opinions. You can read a newspaper clipping at this link that I've provided here about her summary of concern about the increased use of fossil fuels. We all know the globalists have been greatly concerned about the loss of fossil fuels that puts so much money in their pockets. This is why they have pumped money into the private sector to develop solar and wind energy, along with looking for the solution to nuclear fusion. Then, after a big discovery is made, and even after such discoveries are patented, the globalists steal the ideas and the patents for their future use to line their future pockets. But they have one big problem. They can't break Americans of the fossil fuels habit. This is the habit that the globalists started, and now they can't break Americans of it. This is why they are now seeking to break America's voracious energy appetite. In fact, wasn't energy a big election issue? Those globalists who believe Americans consume too much energy will not like America's Trump choice if Trump wins. They will like Biden in office because he will turn America upside down regardless of the cost of the lives of Americans. Oh, wait. That's why they plan to kill off 70% of Americans by 2025. They just are not going to put up with you uppity Americans thinking you run the government anymore. Newsfocus.org might just be a conspiracy website. So I went to the U.S. government to find out if indeed Deagle may be legitimate. Here is what I found on DNI.gov. What is DNI? Office of the Director of National Intelligence. It reports in its Global Trends final report exactly what is on Deagle.com. It says, by 2025, the U.S. will find itself as one of a number of important actors on the world stage, albeit still the most powerful one. Even in the military realm, where the U.S. will continue to possess considerable advantages in 2025, advances by others in science and technology, expanded adoption of irregular warfare tactics by both state and non-state actors, proliferation of long-range precision weapons, and growing use of cyber warfare attacks increasingly will constrict U.S. freedom of action. A more constrained U.S. role has implications for others and the likelihood of new agenda issues being tackled effectively. Despite the recent rise in anti-Americanism, the U.S. probably will continue to be seen as a much-needed regional balancer in the Middle East and Asia. The U.S. will continue to be expected to play a significant role in using its military power to counter global terrorism. On newer security issues like climate change, U.S. leadership will be widely perceived as critical to leveraging competing and divisive views to find solutions. At the same time, the multiplicity of influential actors and distrust of vast power means less room for the U.S. to call the shots without the support of strong partnerships. Developments in the rest of the world include internal developments in a number of key states, particularly China and Russia, are also likely to be crucial determinants of U.S. policy. And then it goes on to say, 2025, what kind of future? The above trends suggest major discontinuities, shocks, and surprises, which we highlight throughout the text. So, in the previous paragraph, they still paint America as the world's leader in 2025, but now they're going to tell the truth. Examples include nuclear weapons use or a pandemic. In some cases, the surprise element is only a matter of timing. An energy transition, for example, is inevitable. There are many other uncertainties, and the scenarios are potential game changers. This is from the government's own website called the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI website. And now, here comes what the DNI really thinks. It says, in a world without the West, the new powers supplant the West as the leaders on the world stage. October surprise illustrates the impact of inattention to global climate change. Unexpected major impacts narrow the world's range of options. In BRICS bust-up, disputes over vital resources emerge as a source of conflict between major powers. In this case, two emerging heavyweights, India and China. In politics is not always local. Non-state networks emerge to set the international agenda on the environment, eclipsing governments. Those were bullet points, but here are further statements by the DNI. Aging populations in the developed world, growing energy, food, and water constraints, and worries about climate change will limit and diminish what will still be an historically unprecedented age of prosperity. The World Bank estimates that demand for food will rise by 50% by 2030 as a result of growing world population, rising affluence, and the shift to Western dietary preferences by a larger middle class. Your own government, folks, is predicting these dire conditions. They are concerned about your affluence and your dietary preferences. This is why they are using COVID to destroy the economy. But didn't the GDP go up by 33% in this last quarter? Isn't the economy coming back? Well, here's Market Watch to explain. The U.S. economy remains in a deep ditch even after a record-shattering burst of growth during the summer. How deep? Gross domestic product is about 3.5% smaller now than it was at its pre-coronavirus peak. That's almost as bad as the economy got during the 2007 to 2009 recession, one of the most severe downturns in modern times. To put this in context, a 3.5% decline in real GDP would still be the third worst recession in the post-World War II period, said Chief Economist Gus Foucher of PNC Financial Services. Looked at another way, some $670 billion in economic activity has vanished, the equivalent of what the U.S. is spending on the military this year. The human cost is evident in rising business failures and the U.S.'s high unemployment rate. Nearly 11 million of the 22 million people who lost their jobs at the peak of the crisis in the early spring have not returned to work, and millions of self-employed workers have also been left out in the cold. Growth could soften further if the latest coronavirus wave crests higher and leads to more government restrictions, especially in the absence of another major federal stimulus. Most government aid expired several months ago after Congress deadlocked on what to do next. From this election, there are a lot of people who will want to kill Americans in great numbers. These include your own country and some nations like Iran and China, along with the leftist globalists who want to take the world down the road of the Green New Deal. Will Deagle's and the DNI's prediction come true? I don't know. My job is not to predict the outcome, but to warn you of the possible danger. Like I said at the beginning of this broadcast, America's ordeals are just beginning, but they fall right in line with Yahweh's prophecies. So take heart, you who believe Yahweh. He will save you in the end. That's it for this Beastwatch News update. This is Kimberly Rogers Brown signing off. Click over to BWN for full comprehensive coverage of all the headlines fulfilling end of days Bible prophecy.